Welcome to our town hall on Longmont's performing arts. Here with me today are council members Joan Peck and Tim Waters, both of whom are candidates in the race to be Longmont's next mayor. Now, we also reached out to candidate Greg Harris, but we were unable to find a time when he could participate, unfortunately. I'm Bob Balsman, the president of the Longmont Performing Arts Initiative, and I am hosting today's town hall on behalf of LPAI. In case any of our viewers are unfamiliar with LPAI, let me give a very short introduction. LPAI is made up of 6 of Longmont's major nonprofit performing arts groups. They are the Centennial State Ballet, the Longmont Concert Band, the Longmont Chorale, the Longmont Symphony Orchestra, the Longmont Youth Symphony, and the Longs Peak Chorus. Together, our hundreds of members perform before thousands of area residents every year. And you can learn more about LPAI and our member groups at longmontperforms.org. Now, today's session is not a debate, but an opportunity for each candidate to express their views in answer to several questions. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to give their response to these pre-written questions, and the candidates have not seen the questions beforehand. So mayoral candidates, welcome. And as you know, our local performing arts organizations in LPAI have been actively promoting the need for a performing arts center in Longmont. Our questions today will focus on the role of the performing arts in Longmont's culture and society. And before we started today, we had a coin toss to decide who will answer our first question. And we will then alternate so that neither candidate has an advantage over the other. Candidate Peck won the coin toss and so will lead off today's session. So candidate Peck, we have an icebreaker to start off. Our first question is, what are some of your favorite experiences and memories of performances in Longmont?
Oh, that's a good question. I liked Fiddler on the Roof, which the Jesters did actually when we were trying to promote the Jesters. And then film noir. The Longmont Theater Company did a series of film noir, which my husband and I really enjoyed. But what I really liked about it was the explanation and the history behind film noir that was given beforehand. So we really got to appreciate the photography, the way the document, it was put together almost like a documentary type of series explaining it. So those are a couple. I've been to a lot of LTCs, but I can't remember them all.
Okay. And Council Member Waters, the same question to you. What are some of your favorite experiences and memories of performances in Longmont?
Well, when we were when we had the 1812 overture in Roosevelt Park, that would be like high on the list. Certainly the Christmas, the symphony's Christmas programs, and the guest conductor concert was always something, you know, with all the buildup, has always been fun, especially when there was as much engagement as there has been as a fundraiser. So those are highlights for me.
Okay, great. And I did neglect to say one thing about timekeeping for our viewers. We do have 3 minutes. I'm keeping track. When we get to 30 seconds, we don't have the nice indicator like they do at the city council meetings. So I will hold up fingers for 30 seconds left, 20 seconds left, 10 seconds left, and then we'll hear the tone from the timer. So the next question then, alternating, goes to candidate Waters. And our question is, what do you feel is the importance of the performing arts to a community like Longmont?
Just like where to start. And I guess I would start where my heart and mind goes initially and that is with what it means to our children in both in and outside of school. We know there are pretty powerful connections between cognitive function and music, the ability to read music, to write music, to perform, the images of children for themselves and their future, which is such a powerful influence on their success in school. are all nurtured in our arts programs. In terms of the community, there certainly are a number of things in Longmont that bring us together as a community, but I don't think there's anything in Longmont that brings us together in moments to celebrate the talent in this community, the creative class and the creation of great art, whether it's performing arts or visual arts. So everything from the art walk to programs, it is a defining feature of this community, and I think every community where there's a sense of coherence and connection across the community.
Okay, and resetting the timer, the same question to candidate Peck. What do you feel is the importance of the performing arts to a community like Longmont?
Thank you, Bob. That's a good question. You know, there have been people in Longmont who've wanted a performing arts center for a very long time. And Leona Stecker, when she was mayor, really was pushing for one, and that didn't go very far. So I think it takes time to put that message out before it finally coalesces into something. I've thought we've needed a performing arts center for a long time, mainly to bring all of our wonderful arts together in a place that it can hold more than 250 people. We've always had Vance Brand Auditorium, which I think that we have outlived. We have had ballet and dancing studios and many different art scenarios or venues, I guess. So bringing them all under one roof, I think, is exactly what we need to do, so that more people can experience it than just a small group or a very small venue, which actually I like those as well. But on the economic side, it would bring dollars into our city, which we really need, and it would allow Longmont to become more of an upgraded city, I might say, where we can have larger performances as well, not just what Longmont has to offer, but bring in larger venues so that we can experience those as well.
Okay, thank you. And then our next question, alternating, candidate Peck, the question comes to you. Local governments invest in arts and culture to provide cultural and social outcomes across their cities. So what do you feel is the Longmont city government's role? What should that be in supporting the performing arts?
I'm assuming you're talking about something fiscally, what kind of revenue we would partner with. That is to be seen. I know right now we don't have anything more to leverage. We've already leveraged 3 or 4 of our buildings for Village at the Peaks, and that won't be paid off for another 15 years. But in the meantime, we can help with structural improvements, but where the Performing Arts Center is being set is in a great opportunity zones, which investors can be able to take advantage of. We are now just at the very last stages of negotiating for that last plot of land to be sold, so that we can start looking at investors that actually they can approach the city of Longmont. I think it's a great opportunity. Rather than answer that question, I would rather see what comes to us rather than the city putting out what they would do first. Let's see who's interested in this and how much they're going to invest in our city rather than how much are we going to invest in them.
Okay, and resetting the timer now, the same question to candidate Waters. Local governments invest in arts and culture to provide social and cultural outcomes across their cities. So what do you feel Longmont city government's role should be in supporting the performing arts?
Yeah, I think I see this a little differently than Councilmember Peck. I think we have an obligation to invest. I was pleased with what we did with our share of the feasibility study to get us to where we are, and at least we have something to talk about. Number one, there is with what I played a significant role in that whole visioning process with the STEAM area, where the performing arts, the proposed or the conceived, not yet proposed, performing arts and conference center is potentially sited. There is the need for land aggregation, and I do think the city plays a significant role in that process, and potentially as a contribution, as part of the package the city brings. At this point, the city has engaged a consultant to help with kind of like the 5 clusters of decisions that have to be made if we're going to put a package together, a proposal to the community. Who's going to manage, who's going to maintain, what's the booking program look like, what does the education public outreach strategy or task look like? All of those, I think, have to be brought together in an ultimate proposal to the city. And I do think, personally, I think the city, I would be excited about it taking the lead with LPAI and with Friends of the Library and Friends of the Museum, potentially others in the community, to bring together what would be a proposal to the community that would be bold and without question would require funding. But it seems to me the only way you, LPAI, can build a prospectus that you're going to present to your investors if you know what you're building on in terms of the skin that the city has in the game. The city wouldn't put skin in the game until there was a whole capital stack, right? Until there was a strategy. But I do think there's a way to position the city without spending a dollar on development of a center, but to say, here's what the city brings. Now go out and sell this to your investors or to foundations or to those who would bring their resources. And the fact that it is in an opportunity zone makes it attractive, at least for some private sector investors who'd like to take advantage of the tax break. But I think there's more for us to do than sit and wait and just wait for a proposal to come to us.
Can I debate that?
We're not really a debate format today,
Okay.
but our next question is similar, so you may want to have some follow-up thoughts. So I have a few statements and then we'll get to the question. This will go to candidate Waters as we alternate. So the performing arts are an economic driver throughout communities across the US, with about $34,000 per 1,000 attendees in revenue coming in beyond the cost of admissions. And a significant portion of the attendees of arts events are from counties outside the county where the arts event takes place, thus bringing in outside dollars into the community. So the question is, how do you envision the arts in Longmont playing an expanded role in the economic development of Longmont, and what role do you feel the local government should likewise play in making this vision possible? So candidate Waters, that's for you.
Our economic development partner in Longmont is the Longmont Economic Development Partnership. The city writes a pretty big check to support the LEDP, the Longmont Economic Development Partnership. On that board are representatives of our major employers, our primary employers in Longmont. I happened to join a delegation of LEDP recently at a conference in Denver to hear a panel of consultants who work with corporations to locate or either expanding their corporations or relocating them. But the session we were listening to was mostly about talent recruitment, and here's the connection between this. Critical to the recruiting of both corporations and talent in terms of economic development is how the community is amenitized, the balance of work and play, kind of play where you work, and what's available in terms of not just outdoor recreation, but the arts is a major component in that decision-making process. So I'm on record in the last debate we did, question, how do you grow the economy if we're going to stop growing in terms of residential development? And the answer is, it's persuading people from outside Longmont to come and spend their money in Longmont. And a performing arts venue with the kind of talent we could feature would be central to that, along with others in this kind of frame of what the community is like, that where you want to live and play and work, right? All, not simultaneously, but in combination. So at the end of the day, if we're going to be successful with our economic development efforts, this is an important part of the component. And when we have it, it adds to our economic development efforts as a virtuous cycle.
Okay, and then the same question to candidate Peck. How do you envision the arts in Longmont playing an expanded role in the economic development of Longmont, and what role do you feel local government should play in making this vision possible?
I think it's a huge economic driver. I feel that, if we want people to come to our Performing Arts Center, to our convention center, to the whole vision of what STEAM is in the area we're proposing, we need to first show that we are invested in getting them there through transportation, which is what I am working on, but that's a different subject. I look at it a little bit different in the role that Longmont plays in bringing in LEDP. I look at the Performing Arts Center, the Convention Center. Those are businesses that want to relocate here. And the way we should always, and we are in conversations with people who want to help develop the Performing Arts Center. But I think they need to bring to us a vision, just like any business would. What is your vision of what you want to see? And we will be a partner. We're always a partner. And that's why I said the first thing we would probably help with and invest in would be the infrastructure. But as far as, is this going to be a nonprofit? Is it going to be a for-profit? Those discussions would depend upon how much we engage in it. And I know the public is pretty much on board from the kind of informal surveys we've done throughout some of the events that we've had, we've tried to sell the idea to them through public events like Rhythm on the River, Oktoberfest, where they could come and hear what it's about. And those were quite informal, and we had great response from that. So as far as the investment goes, again, I would have to see exactly what it is that the companies that the Performing Arts Center want to, what is your vision? What can you bring to the city first before we start saying what we would put in it? That's usually the way businesses work, whether it's Smuckers or Costco, and then that's where the negotiation starts.
Okay, our next question leads off to candidate Peck. In 2020, a feasibility study conducted by Johnson Consulting gave a positive recommendation to build a Longmont Performing Arts and Events Center. The question is, do you agree with that positive finding outlined in the feasibility study? And what issues or obstacles do you see that would need to be addressed before moving forward with such a project?
Oh, I totally agree with it. I think it's great. As I said, Leona was the first one that I know of that brought up the idea that we needed performing arts. And then knowing it wouldn't pass, I brought it up on a prospective property and asked why the developer didn't want to put in a performing arts center there. I knew it wouldn't go anywhere, but it put the thought process out. What was the second half of your question?
What issues or obstacles do you see that would need to be addressed before moving forward with such a project?
I think the first thing would be environmental cleanup, seeing where that is and getting that taken care of. That's a huge expense. Also, probably the normal things: drainage, accessibility, transportation. Again, we need to get people there and be able to have them be able to access other things like hotels, restaurants, the offshoots of having a performing arts center, a hotel. There are all those types of things when you talk about any big development. So at this point, I don't know if an engineering study has been done as far as what the outcome or the challenges in the environmental studies, in the drainage, in parking. Those I think are the challenges of any big investment.
Okay.
I don't think they're obstacles.
Okay. And same question to candidate Waters. Do you agree with the positive finding outlined in the feasibility study from Johnson Consulting? And what issues or obstacles do you see that would need to be addressed before moving forward with such a project? And you're on mute, unfortunately.
Yes, I was on mute. I'm on the record. The night the Johnson Consulting presented the results of the feasibility study to the council, I was on the record then with I think this is a positive contribution. It's moving us in the right direction, and understood. I think there were 5 kind of clusters of decisions that have to be made. I labeled them that night simply as decisions, not as obstacles. I would say that this is not in terms of a rebuttal, just I think successful cities and successful businesses bring a vision. They don't sit and wait for others to tell them what their visions are. Finding the intersections, the nexus between those visions is important. So we end up with a shared vision of where we want to go. But I think we have to be really clear with investors and who might step into development and to LPAI, to actually the vision with LPAI of what we would expect to see as proposals, right? This is our vision, now bring yours and let's see where the kind of the Venn diagram or the nexus or the connections might be. I do think that we have a remarkable opportunity coming up. We have this feasibility study. We are, by the end of the year, we're going to get another results of a second feasibility study from the library. I think it's going to be incumbent upon whoever the next mayor is to work with LPAI and the Friends of the Library to make certain we bring together the best of the proposals, of the ideas, and the potential to go to the community with a twofer. You could get more and better with the library, and you could get at least the city's investment in the city's share of a performing arts facility going to the public and you could do it without any tax increase, honestly, to get the cities to generate the city's share of that capital stack or that capital investment. But that's going to require a fair amount. That's going to require a vision. That's going to require some sophisticated facilitation on the part of a mayor, and it's going to take a willingness of LPAI and Friends of the Library and others to come together to at least consider a range of possibilities. But I think it would be a bold proposal to the community. It would be exciting, and I think it could be redefining in terms of the next generation of Longmonters coming along.
Okay, and then our last question goes to candidate Waters first. So in closing, what else would you like to say to our local performing arts community?
Maybe I'll just continue with the last part of my comments. To be patient. I know there's a lot of enthusiasm, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to dampen that enthusiasm. But my advice, my hope is that we'll stay the course in terms of what the city's doing right now with the consultant, waiting for the result of the library feasibility study, and then take a look at what might come together as a proposal that accomplishes a couple of big objectives for the community that I think could be attractive enough, compelling enough to the community that we could persuade the community this is the kind of investment that's worth making, especially as we anticipate coming out of a pandemic. It could move us in a direction with pace and with vision and with some enthusiasm towards the kind of future that a lot of Longmonters have aspired to see in the post-pandemic era in terms of what their preferred futures are. So I think it's time. I think it's exciting. I will say one of the different. I read something yesterday in the Times Call, a letter differentiating council or candidate Peck and Councilman Waters based on our support of the Performing Arts Center. That I was being dissed for supporting it, and Councilman Peck was being supported for not supporting it. So there's some confusion in the community in terms of where we stand on this issue.
Okay. And then the same question to candidate Peck in closing. What else would you like to say to our local performing arts community?
I've always supported the performing arts vision for a performing arts center for years, long before this council adopted it. And remember, the whole council adopted STEAM. It was not just one person or one person's idea. We work as a team on this. I'm not as fluent in my speech as Tim Waters is. But I know that these are, a lot of what he said to me was in my word of negotiation. We're going to negotiate this. It's not going to be one side's vision or the other side's vision. It's a negotiation. But we have already had from our city a design for that whole area. And of course, it's just a concept. It's not hard. It's not hard closed in there. I do have a different opinion of the library because I feel that taking the library out of the community vision is not a good idea. The one thing that Longmont's great about is that we are a community and not just a glass and steel, high vision, and taking the community vision out of it. I think that we're both. I think there are a lot of people, most people I know want the Performing Arts Center, and I'm looking forward to the second feasibility study and where we can go with it. But staff, at the end of the day, it is going to be staff, our financial, our CFO, where we are, how can we make this happen, and council working with staff. So it is a huge partnership with all of us. What it looks like at the end of the day, I don't know, but I think it's going to be great.
Great. Thank you both for joining today's town hall. I don't know if it's happening on your end, but my picture appears to be frozen. So one of the foibles of remote meetings. So thank you to everyone who's viewing today as well. And we hope you have found this useful. If you would like to learn more about LPAI, you can visit us at longmontperforms.org. And if you would like to know more about the project we've been speaking about through these questions, you can visit the city's Engage Longmont website and also our website, longmontcenter.org. So thanks again, and remember, please do vote.